Welcome to Restoria. I'm Jenna, and this is your cozy corner for gentle bedtime stories. Each night, I'll share peaceful tales made to quiet your thoughts and guide you softly into sleep. So settle in, get comfy, and let the story carry you into rest. The story tonight is called Where the Wind Leaves You. Chapter 1. The Clearing. The morning is soft around the edges. Mist hugs the ground like a sleepy thought, and the grass sways in slow rhythm, as if the earth is still stretching from its dream. Sam walks with no real direction. His shoes are damp with dew. His sleeves are too long. There's a weight in his chest that doesn't hurt. He exactly just sits there like something waiting to be named. He doesn't follow a trail. He doesn't check the time. He just walks until the trees begin to thin. Birdsong flickers softly overhead, weaving in and out of the breeze. Somewhere behind him, a squirrel chirps and rustles through leaves. But ahead everything is still. Then, all at once, the clearing appears, a soft dip in the land, a circle of quiet, and in the middle, resting on the breadth of the field, is a hot air balloon. Its envelope is pale blue with soft gold seams. It doesn't tower, doesn't shout. It simply waits. The basket is open. No crowd, no signs, no rush. Just a little wooden box near the edge of the grass with a folded blanket inside and a note tied to the handle with a ribbon. For quiet travelers, no destination needed. Sam stops a few feet away. His breath leaves him slow and light. The stillness feels like an invitation. He looks around just in case, but no one comes. No voice calls him back. He takes a step forward. The grass brushes his ankles like soft thread. The air smells faintly of wild thyme and something older like memory. He reaches the basket. The wicker creaks as he places one hand on the side. It's warm, real. He climbs in. The blanket is heavier than it looks, woven with thick yarn and edged in tiny stitches. He wraps it around his shoulders and exhales. A soft hiss of the flame overhead. A gentle shift. The ropes tighten. The ground begins to fall away. Not quickly, just enough. The balloon rises with a kind of grace that feels like floating inside his side. No jolt, no direction. The field becomes a patch of green. The trees blur. The sky opens. Sam's fingers hold lightly to the edge of the basket. But he's not afraid. He watches as the horizon bends wide. Distant hills soften into blue. A river winds quietly through them, like a drawn line on parchment. Sam doesn't ask where they're going. He already knows. Nowhere. And that's exactly the point. He leans against the side of the basket. The air smells like morning and quiet leaves. For the first time in weeks, he doesn't try to fill the silence. He just lets it be. A bird calls out far below, then another, a reply. The flame lets out another soft, more breath than sound. The balloon, steady and slow, carries him gently into the wide, waiting sky. Chapter 2, Cloud Light. The higher they drift, the quieter it becomes. The air is cool but gentle, not biting, just brisk enough to remind Sam he's somewhere else now, somewhere above. The landscape below unfolds like a dream. Green meadows curve around slow rivers. A cluster of sheep dots one hill like little wisps of cloud that forgot to float. Tiny houses tuck themselves under trees. The clouds begin to gather, thin and bright, drifting like gauze across the pale blue sky. One floats so close it brushes the side of the basket. Sam watches it pass, no sound, no rush, just softness on softness. Sunlight filters through in long golden bands. They fall across his arms, his knees, the folded blanket. Everything glows. He reaches out a hand, lets it hover in the light. The warmth settles gently into his skin. A quiet breath, not deep, just enough. He thinks about how long it's been since he let himself be still, not distracted, not busy, just quiet. The balloon creaks softly, as if in agreement. Below, a winding road leads to a sleepy town nestled in the curve of a hill. Smoke curls from chimneys. A church steeple gleams like a pin stuck in green cloth. A bird appears, gliding alongside the balloon. It's small, sleek, with white wings tipped in grey. It flaps once, then settles, coasting on the wind. For a long moment, it flies beside him. Then softly, it lands on the edge of the basket. Sam doesn't move, just watches. The bird tilts its head, looks at him, blinks, then it chirps once, not loud, just clear. It stays a while, breathing the same air, sharing the same view. Sam wonders where it came from, if it always flies this high, if it ever lands for longer. He imagines it sitting on a windowsill, watching people read, resting beside old shoes left on porches. Then, as gently as it came, it lifts its wings and takes flight again, disappearing into the wide sky. Sam doesn't know why, but something in that moment settles deep, like the bird knew not what he needed to do, just that he was already doing it. He stays near the edge, elbows resting on the rim of the basket, gaze drifting. Clouds pass. Time moves. Nothing hurries. The sun creeps higher, changing the light from honey to gold. A gust nudges the balloon ever so slightly. Not enough to change course, just to remind him that the world still turns. A single petal wherefrom he doesn't know drifts across the sky and brushes his shoulder. He catches it without thinking, tiny, pale, still fragrant. He tucks it into the edge of the blanket, and high above the world, wrapped in light and quiet air, Sam lets go of one more thing he hadn't even realized he was holding. Chapter 3. The Space Between. The balloon drifts between two clouds, pale and still. Sam leans his head back and looks straight up. The sky stretches above him, blue, so soft, it feels like it might dissolve if you touched it. A single wisp of vapor curls across the sun and leaves a glowing outline behind. The world is quiet in every direction. No voices, no engines, not even the sound of trees. Just the creak of the basket and the low breath of the flame when it stirs. Time moves differently here. Sam has no idea how long he's been floating. It could be minutes or hours. The balloon has no clock. The sky doesn't keep appointments. He notices the way the clouds change shape slowly. One becomes a boat, then a hill, then something formless and kind. His thoughts come and go the same way, not in words, more like feelings drifting through his chest. Some are familiar, some surprising, but none of them stay long, and none feel too heavy. The breeze shifts, the balloon turns just slightly. Below, the hills roll like waves frozen in motion. A small fox darts across a field. A line of trees gathers along a stream. A cluster of rooftops comes into view. Stone chimneys, slate shingles, a winding dirt road, a village maybe, or just a handful of houses that know how to live quietly together. Sam imagines what it would be like to live there, to open your door each morning to birdsong and distant fields, to carry bread home in a cloth bag and greet neighbors by name. He wonders what the people there are doing, boiling water for tea, reading on porches, watching the balloon float silently across their sky. He rests his chin on the edge of the basket. He wonders if anyone has ever flown exactly this way before. In this moment, in this silence, in this light, he doubts it, and the thought makes him feel both tiny and enormous at once. A butterfly rises from somewhere below and flutters past the basket, yellow and small, completely unbothered by height. Sam finds himself smiling, not a big smile, just a quiet one, the kind that arrives without needing to be noticed. He checks the blanket folded by his feet, unfolds it halfway, and wraps it around his shoulders again, more from comfort than cold. The balloon creaks. A bird calls from far off, too distant to see. The sky deepens a little, shifts toward morning's end. The light cools, softens. Sam stretches his arms out over the basket rim and closes his eyes. He doesn't sleep, but he drifts, and in that space between waking and dreaming, he hears nothing but wind and sky, and it sounds like peace. Chapter 3. The Space Between. The balloon drifts between two clouds, pale and still. Sam leans his head back and looks straight up. The sky stretches above him, blue, so soft, it feels like it might dissolve if you touched it. A single wisp of vapor goes across the sun and leaves a glowing outline behind. The world is quiet in every direction. No voices, no engines, not even the sound of trees, just the creak of the basket and the low breath of the flame when it stirs. Time moves differently here. Sam has no idea how long he's been floating. It could be minutes or hours. The balloon has no clock. The sky doesn't keep appointments. He notices the way the clouds change shape. Slowly one becomes a boat, then a hill, then something formless and kind. His thoughts come and go the same way, not in words, more like feelings drifting through his chest. Some are familiar, some surprising, but none of them stay long, and none feel too heavy. The breeze shifts. The balloon turns just slightly. Below, the hills roll, like waves frozen in motion. A small fox darts across a field. A line of trees gathers along a stream. A cluster of rooftops comes into view. Stone chimneys, slate shingles, a winding dirt road, a village maybe, or just a handful of houses that know how to live quietly together. Sam imagines what it would be like to live there, to open your door each morning to birdsong and distant fields, to carry bread home in a cloth bag and greet neighbors by name. He wonders what they're doing, boiling water for tea, reading on porches, watching the balloon float silently across their sky. He rests his chin on the edge of the basket. He wonders if anyone has ever flown exactly this way before. In this moment, in this silence, in this light, he doubts it, and the thought makes him feel both tiny and enormous at once. A butterfly rises from somewhere below and flutters past the basket, yellow and small, completely unbothered by height. Sam finds himself smiling, not a big smile, just a quiet one, the kind that arrives without needing to be noticed. He checks the blanket folded by his feet, unfolds it halfway, and wraps it around his shoulders again, more from comfort than cold. The balloon creaks. A bird calls from far off, too distant to see. The sky deepens a little, shifts toward morning's end. The light cools, softens. Sam stretches his arms out over the basket rim and closes his eyes. He doesn't sleep, but he drifts, and in that space between waking and dreaming, he hears nothing but wind and sky, and it sounds like peace. Chapter 4: Drift and Memory. The sun has climbed higher now, soft gold spilling generously across the sky. The balloon floats gently, as if choosing its own path, not by direction, but by feeling. Sam watches the land change below. The patchwork of trees and fields begins to widen, stretch. The villages give way to quiet hills, and the air turns even lighter. There's a kind of quiet that settles not around you, but within you, and Sam feels it now. It doesn't ask questions, it doesn't tug, it just rests in his chest, warm and whole. He leans on the edge of the basket and lets his eyes wander. Somewhere below, a train curves through the valley. Tiny from this height, its sound doesn't reach him, but the shape of it feels familiar, like a line from a memory. And suddenly, that's what begins to rise, not in a rush, just one memory at a time. The first time he saw snow, a hand in his when he was scared of thunder, a melody hummed while dishes were washed. Not all memories are loud. Some are whispers. Some are just feelings that never ask for words. He presses his fingers to the basket's edge and lets them rest there. Below, the light on the hills begins to shift. Long shadows stretch like stories being told slowly. He wonders if the balloon has floated this path before. If others look down and remember too. The flame breathes gently overhead. Just one. Sam watches a cluster of birds wheel through the air. They pass the balloon without stopping, like they already knew he was here. The blanket is still around his shoulders. He pulls it closer, not out of chill, but to hold the moment in place. He doesn't want to land yet, not because he fears the ground, but because he hasn't finished floating. His heart, once full of cluttered thoughts, feels like a quiet room now. And in that room, there's space for breath, for softness, for one long, steady exhale. He lets it out slowly, eyes half closed, face tipped toward the sun. The balloon drifts on. A field of lavender unfurls below. Rows and rows of violet, swaying like a poem written in color. Even from here, he thinks he can almost smell it sharp and clean, tinged with sweetness. He pictures someone walking those rows, fingertips brushing the tops of the plants, alone but not lonely, carried by the scent, by the sound of bees tucked deep inside petals, and farther off, the shimmer of a lake, smooth and blue, like it has no bottom. The balloon passes close enough that the reflection looks up at him, sky in water, water and sky. He waves at it without thinking. The flame hisses softly, keeping him steady. Sam closes his eyes again. This time, he remembers a voice, someone humming on a quiet drive. A window cracked open. The smell of rain on warm pavement. He doesn't miss it exactly, but he's glad it came back. Gratitude, he realizes, can be a kind of memory too. The balloon continues its slow circle of the sky, and Sam continues with it. every inch of him breathing in the stillness, the hush, the glow, held not by walls, but by wind, held not by anything he can explain, just held. Chapter 5. The bird again. The morning is slipping gently toward midday. The clouds have thinned, stretched into long wisps that barely touch the sky. The sun is steady now, neither sharp nor bright, just warm, the kind of warmth that doesn't ask anything of you. The balloon glides through the quiet, slow as thought. Sam sits on the floor of the basket now, legs tucked beneath him, arms draped loosely over his knees. He hasn't spoken a word since the flight began. There hasn't been a need. His body feels lighter, not in a floating way, but in a quiet way, like everything heavy inside him decided to rest for a while. Then a flicker of wings. Familiar. The small bird returns. It lands on the basket's rim with the same calm balance as before. One hop, a tilt of the head. Sam smiles softly. You came back, he whispers, even though the bird doesn't need the words. It chirps just once. They sit together again, like two passengers who don't need to know each other to understand. The bird tucks one foot up into its feathers and blinks slowly. Sam watches it for a while, then looks out across the sky. Below, there's a meadow that seems to ripple as the wind moves through it. Gold and green. No path, just space. He imagines lying there, the grass swaying over him like lullabies. His arms spread out. Nothing to do, nowhere to be. The bird chirps again, as if in agreement. Sam reaches into the blanket's fold and pulls out the petal he caught earlier. He holds it in his palm, lets the light touch it, lets the wind lift it from his hand. It floats upward first, then back, and then slowly downward, caught in the quiet push of the air. The bird watches it too, then flaps its wings and follows. Sam watches it grow smaller and smaller until it disappears into the space below. He doesn't feel sad. He just feels steady, like something was said, even if no one spoke it. The balloon tilts slightly in a new breeze. It creaks as it turns. The flame breathes again. Sam wraps the blanket more snugly around himself. He sits back against the side of the basket, closes his eyes, smiles, and drifts on quietly into the light. Chapter 6. The quiet below. The breeze is changing now. It's not stronger, not colder, just different. the kind of shift that comes not from the wind itself, but from the space it moves through. Sam notices it without needing to name it. The balloon begins to dip, not quickly, just enough to make the clouds feel farther away and the trees a little closer. He doesn't panic, doesn't even wonder why. He only watches. The hills below stretch wide, full of old stone fences and wildflowers. A creek winds through like a silver thread. It glints in the sun and then disappears again into the trees. The meadow they're heading toward is smaller than the first, tucked between a stand of birches and a curve of soft earth. It looks quiet, lived in, like the ground remembers every traveler who ever touched down there. As the balloon lowers, more detail comes into view. A scattering of mushrooms at the base of the trees. A wooden sign, blank and worn smooth by weather. A stump with a stone resting on top like a seat waiting for a pause. The balloon breathes once more, one last exhale, and begins to lower. Sam stands. His legs are steady. His chest feels open, as if the sky left some of itself inside him. He watches as the ground rises to meet him. Birdsong returns, faint but near, the kind that slips through tall grass and lands gently on your shoulder. The basket touches down with a soft thump. No jolt, no announcement, just stillness. Sam steps out, 1 foot at a time. The grass bends beneath his weight, then rises again. He takes a few steps, not for just enough to feel the earth beneath his feet again. The way it gives a little, the way it holds you without holding you back. He turns to look at the balloon. It sits quietly, tall and calm. The envelope flutters, then settles. He places a hand on the basket rim. "Thank you," he whispers, and in that moment he means it. For the quiet, for the air, for the drift. He doesn't look back as he walks away, not because he's leaving anything behind, but because the quiet he needed isn't up there anymore. It's with him now, in his steps, in his breath, in the gentle way. The world doesn't feel quite so heavy. He stops by the stump, sits for a moment, lets his fingers trail through the grass. A dragonfly hovers nearby, shimmers, moves on. He closes his eyes, not to rest, but to listen. The creek murmurs, leaves rustle, Softly, the balloon creaks once, then is still. When he opens his eyes again, the sky looks brighter, not in color, in feeling. He stands and walks toward the edge of the meadow, and somewhere above, the balloon waits for the next quiet traveler, for the next breath of sky. Chapter 7. The Meadow Path. Sam walks without needing to choose a direction. The meadow unfolds in soft golden waves, a trail shaped only by where the grass has been before. Each step is cushioned, soundless. He could be the only one here, one of many who've moved through quietly. He follows the curve of the land, letting it guide him. The breeze brushes his sleeves, playful but calm. The trees begin to thin on one side, revealing a narrow path lined with old stones, half sunk in the soil. They don't lead sharply anywhere, just gently forward. As he walks, the bird song grows clearer. A lark, a blackbird, leaves rustle in the canopy above, dappling light across the path like scattered thoughts. A rabbit darts across ahead of him. It stops just once to look at him, then disappears into the ferns. Sam doesn't rush. He breathes slowly, fully. He passes a patch of forget-me-nots, blue and bright, hugging the edge of a fallen log. Further on, he finds a wooden bench tucked beneath a willow. He sits. From here, he can still see the tip of the balloon rising just above the trees behind him. Still, waiting, he pulls the blanket tighter around his shoulder, the same one that carried him through the sky, now softened by sunlight and memory. His mind, once filled with tangled thoughts, feels like this bench, simple, still, a place where something can rest. He listens, not for answers, just for the world. A bee drifts near, hovers, moves on. A branch creaks somewhere deep in the woods. A distant wind chime, maybe, or just a bird echoing metal. He notices the way the light plays on the grass, how even the smallest movement sends a ripple across the whole field. A leaf falls. It spins slowly, lands beside his foot. He picks it up, traces the veins with his thumb. He thinks about how easy it is to forget the beauty of still things. The balloon had moved so quietly, and yet it brought him farther than noise ever had. He wonders if others have walked this same path, if the bench has held stories before his, if the breeze carries echoes. When he stands, he feels taller, not changed, just steadier. He walks again. The path continues, winding into a grove of silver birch trees. Their bark peels like old pages. Night flickers through them like candle glow. He steps carefully, not out of caution but out of care. Each footstep feels like part of something sacred, not holy but honest. He stops at a stone beside the trail, flat and round, with a feather resting on top, not placed, just settled. He doesn't take it, he just smiles. The path widens again, then dips, and ahead he sees a small wooden gate, low and unlatched, leading toward another field, another beginning. But for the first time in a long while, Sam doesn't wonder what that might be. He only walks because some journeys don't need destinations, just the quiet to carry you. Chapter 8, Where the Wind Leaves You. The wooden gate creaks quietly as Sam eases it open. It swings with no resistance, as if it's been waiting for this very moment. Beyond it lies another meadow, wider, wilder, filled with flowers Sam doesn't know the names of. He steps through. The light here is a little softer, like early evening, though the sun is still high. Shadows stretch long and gentle. He walks through the field, the blanket still around his shoulders, the air brushing his face with a touch so light it could be breath. There's no sign telling him where to go, so he doesn't go anywhere. He simply walks until he stops, and then when he feels it's time, he sits in the middle of the wildflowers. Bees hum nearby. A soft wind moves through like someone turning a page. He closes his eyes, thinks not about what was or what might be, but about the quiet now, the way it wraps around his ribs and settles in his lungs. Minutes pass, or maybe longer. When he opens his eyes again, the sky is the same shade it was when he first looked up from the basket. Soft blue, endless. He lies back in the grass, stretches out fully. He lets the earth hold him, lets the sun find his face, lets the memory of the balloon live behind his eyelids, not as a story, but as something felt, a whisper, a drift, a kindness. And for a while, there's no need to do anything else. Just breathe, just be. Eventually, when he does sit up, it's not with urgency. just readiness. He stands, brushes grass from his hands, folds the blanket over one arm. He begins to walk again. No destination, just the rhythm of steps, just the peace still riding in his chest. And far behind him, high above, the balloon lifts once more, quiet and bright, carried by the sky, waiting for the next quiet heart to listen.